Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio, and a view from space. Just went over the plot to the brand new release, the re-release of The Wicker Man, which is a pagan religion that requires human sacrifice. And, of course, Lord Summer Isle has brought wonderful fruit, apples, to this island. And for that, the gods must be repaid. So it's a beautiful little girl called Rowan Morrison who is going to be the sacrifice. And, of course, someone who sacrifices themselves of their own free will is even better than the original sacrifice that may not want to be sacrificed. So do you see where I'm getting at with John Mark Carr? He wants to be the sacrifice. He wants to be the wicker man for these people. Now, with John Mark Carr changing clothes, it clearly marks what I mean by this, where he takes off his red for the sacrificed person, the red meaning the blood, the sacrificed blood, with his black tie. He takes that off and puts on his blue one, which is a calming, heavenly touch. It's an exoteric color, meaning outward, giving of himself, and that's when he is jovial and amiable with other people and initiating conversations, ordering drinks. Then back goes on the red shirt. And there's one move on the aircraft that you have to watch because it is a dead giveaway for the Freemasonry apron. You know why Freemasons wear aprons? To cover their penis. The penis is immortalized by Isis as she fashioned Osiris's penis into an obelisk that are around the world. As a matter of fact, the obelisks are around the world to show where this demonic, satanic group of people, the Illuminati, have been establishing themselves. Wherever that obelisk is, they are establishing themselves and their prowess. So you see, the penis is sacred because sex is a huge part of their religion. It's the center part of their religion. It is where their genes are passed on to another. Their power is passed on to their next born. It is the reincarnation utensil. And they use an apron to cover it, to hide it. As the camera on the aircraft, on the Thai Airways jet, is panning down, they actually go below onto his lap. Why you would shine a camera onto a person's lap is beyond me, unless you were going to flash a signal. And that's exactly what happened. When the camera drops down from John Mark Carr's eyes and face, where he looks spaced out, it drops to his lap. He takes his hand and he moves his tie over top, covering his penis. The signal was given. Then, when they get off of the aircraft in Los Angeles, by the way, the plane touched down at exactly 12:27 a.m., 12:27, add it all up, you get a 12. A 1 and a 2 is a 3. That's how numerology works. 12:27. The 7 plus 2 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. And the 1 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. There's the royal number once again. then that unfolds to where they take him. Where? Los Angeles jail. The name of the jail? The Twin Towers Jail. You're in front of your machine right now on AM640.com. Picking up the live audio streaming. Google Jacobin and Boaz, and you'll find in Freemasonry there are 2 pillars, 2 towers inside every lodge of Freemasonry, known as Jacobin and Boaz. The jail John Mark Carr is taken to is the Twin Towers Jail. It has 1 tower for men, 1 tower for women. And, as I reiterate again, he insisted on changing his shirt before landing, brushing his teeth, and putting a tie on. He is described as a man who seemed to be a bit dazed, but also very, very well composed. He spent a lot of time brushing his hair and making everything that he was wearing look good, apparently wanting to make sure his appearances are up to snuff. He can't wait to get to Colorado. He waives his rights and agrees to extradition immediately. And he starts to complain about the orange jumpsuit that he's been given to wear now and the chains. He can't really believe that they're doing this because, you see, this man has been probably brainwashed into thinking he's the Wicker Man. He's the sacrifice. But he can't believe he's being treated this way now. Just think. If the system goes along with them and sets all the people up for this man to take the fall for whoever did it, because you and I all know, this man did not commit the murder. But he is freely, like the Wicker Man, freely offering himself as the sacrifice for it. He's in the Boulder County Jail right now. They have not determined whether they're going to charge him or not. He'll be appearing in court Monday, 4:30. It won't be for charging. He will not be leveled charges. But if he is charged, a judge will then order DNA testing. That DNA would then be taken to the Denver Police Department lab, where it will be tested to determine if this DNA is a match to the DNA recovered from JonBenét's underwear. But listen, I gotta tell you, this is the part where the setup may be in the DNA. We have now a person who says they have sighted John Mark Carr in Boulder, Colorado, the morning after the night of the murder. We have other people saying that he was not there but was in another state at a Christmas party. Someone's wrong. Who? The confusion sets in. Remember, once people are confused and they're easily manipulated, the Wicker Man makes his appearance in the Boulder, Colorado court Monday. It's AM 640, Toronto Radio. This is View from Space. I'm the spaceman. It's AM 640, Toronto Radio. So here's proof. Photo at Christmas time. 1996 photo of John Carr's family holiday gathering. It's given the family more reason to believe John Carr could not have been with JonBenet Ramsey when she was killed at the same time in Boulder, Colorado. Gary Harris is the lawyer for the Carr's relatives. Carr's father's got a picture, found a photo of Carr's 3 sons during a Christmas dinner in Atlanta. Said the family is certain that if the sons were there, then Carr would have been there too. But he doesn't mention the Carrs in the picture. Harris, the lawyer for the Carr family, says the photo from 1996 is definitely from 1996, that Christmas dinner, because there was a baby pictured in it. It was born at the same month of the same year. But then where is John Mark Carr in the picture if he was there? And of course, Carr's second wife, Laura Knutson, said he didn't miss a family Christmas. And get this, if you can believe this, I can't. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has not been asked to compare evidence from John Mark Carr with evidence taken from the Ramsey crime scene. You know what? If I was one of the investigators, the first damn thing I'd do is get that Thai guy and say, give me the swab you took from the guy's mouth. I'm going to make the comparison right now. I'm going to find out what the hell the answer is. No, why are they waiting? They're waiting because this is a show. This is a performance. This is the Wicker Man in real life. Twin Towers jail. You know what the cell was called that John Mark Carr was in Los Angeles' Twin Towers jail? It was called a high power cell. This man has high power. They're giving it to him because he is the sacrifice for someone's murder. In 1999, Governor of Colorado, Bill Owens, told the parents of JonBenet Ramsey to quit hiding behind their attorneys and their PR firm. They hired a public relations firm, you know. And that's something that he has never came out in public and apologized for. In case speculation by experts, the media, Patsy and John Ramsey have supported different theories. For a long time, the local police supported the theory that her mother accidentally killed JonBenet in a fit of rage after the girl wet her bed on that same night. Another theory was that John Ramsey had been sexually abusing his daughter and murdered her as a cover. Another one, John Ramsey's son, Burke, was also targeted. Even asked to testify at the grand jury trial of the parents, John and Patsy. He's now a student at Purdue University. You can imagine what the fall is going to be like for him going back to school. Wow. The Ramseys have always said the crime was committed by an intruder. You know what? They even hired John Douglas. You know who John Douglas is? He's the former head of the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit to take this case. They paid him big bucks for him to conclude that they were not involved in the murder. Due to the lack of evidence in that grand jury, they didn't indict the Ramseys for any crime. 7 months, there's that number again, 7 months after the murder, the family moved back to Atlanta. Have you seen the house, the picture of the front of the house? 755 15th Street in Boulder. It's got 3 sevens on it. They're white. You can't miss them. Google it sometime. Just go Ramsey house. Boom. Hit images. And you'll see the 3 sevens. As plain as day. I mean, they just jump right out at you. That was the sacrifice house. And they left 7 months after the murder. There was also a garrote. This radio show, A View from Space, on AM 640, Toronto Radio, will get a little graphic in the concluding 2 hours, so I want you to use your discretion on who is listening with you and whether they should hear it or not. I want to move to the garrote. This is the strangle device that was used on the 6-year-old. The results of that autopsy revealed that JonBenet was killed by strangulation. There was a skull fracture, but it didn't kill her. The garrote did. A choking device, made from a length of nylon cord and the handle of a paintbrush that was used to strangle her. Her skull had a severe blow to it, but she was still alive. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with the craniocerebral trauma, or the bang to the head. The other half of the paintbrush was found in a tub of Patsy Ramsey's, the mother's, art supplies. See, Patsy Ramsey thought of herself as quite an artist. She was Miss Virginia in the 70s. And the people that examined the garrote said that the construction of it required a special knowledge of knots. And the autopsy revealed that the child had eaten pineapple only a few hours earlier before the murder, too, something that her mother claimed to be unaware of. And the Ramseys, covering it up for themselves, hey, they were very, very, very liberal in naming possible suspects. They mentioned dozens of close friends. Yeah. Former business colleagues. A trusted household worker. Ms. Pug. She actually sued them for that. And even the man who played Santa Claus at Ramsey's Christmas parties for the last 3 years. He was even named. Santa's wife, by the way, thought the Ramseys were the masterminds behind the murder. And then there was the polygraph tests that the Ramseys at first would not accept. They turned them down. Boulder, Colorado Police Department asked them to take one in the spring of 2000. She was killed in 96. In 2000, they asked for a voluntary submission to a polygraph exam. Ramsey's attorney that was hired, Lynn Wood, told Boulder police that the Ramseys didn't want to make an exam, or didn't want to rather take an exam that was given by the FBI because they believed the previous involvement of the FBI and the FBI labs in the murder investigation prevented the FBI from being independent examiners. In other words, they were trying to frame them. Lynn Wood, their lawyer, contended. Now, you got to understand who Lynn is. Lynn's a tough, aggressive lawyer. He got Richard Jewell off when he was supposed to have bombed the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, if you'll recall. Lynn Wood was a lawyer that sprung that man free. Also, and I'm not, maybe you think Richard Jewell was innocent yourself, but they never caught anybody for it. They didn't even follow it up. And another one, a man who got off scot-free who looked kind of guilty, Remember Kobe Bryant and that sex assault case? Well, Lynn Wood got him off, too. He's the man to go to when you need a win. Lynn Wood is the Ramsey's lawyer. It's the Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Back with a lot more.
He goes deeper into today's headlines than anyone else dares to go. But can you take it? This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Notice how things are starting to just slowly eke out with this John Mark Carr murder investigation of JonBenet. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. People magazine features excerpts in their next issue from an interview that says Thai officials conducted with Carr while he was in jail in Bangkok. This expose is going to be in the People magazine's next edition. According to a transcript that it obtained, the magazine said he confessed to try and bring this chapter of his life to an end and to begin the healing. A quote is, by Carr, "I want them to hear the truth. I want closure, and JonBenet's family needs closure. All of us have gone through enough pain." Also, Carr talks about DNA, and he expressed doubts about the DNA evidence. He told the Thai cops that the DNA might not match, but you can't trust the test. This is all according to People magazine. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. There are some very creepy characters that have come out of the woodwork, too, which we'll be talking about, like Patience Van Zandt and Jamie Harmon. Wow. Just let me get back to Mr. Linwood, the lawyer for the Ramseys, who's got a real reputation for being very aggressive in his approach. And he has filed suits on behalf of John and Patsy Ramsey. And there will be more. It looks as though he's already been on television and threatening everyone. Watch out. See, in 1999, Ramsey's sued the supermarket tabloid Star, you know, the one that you pick up as you go out of the shopping, in the stores, right at the till. They got all the tabloids there, and the Star's sitting there. They sued them for $25 million for labeling Burke, the son. They printed a story saying that he was the one who killed his sister and had sex with her. A very smart move, actually, by Lynn Wood, the lawyer for the Ramseys, according to legal experts. It's easier to prove that the son, Burke, who was 9 at the time, is not a public figure. That's an important distinction in libel suits because, you see, private citizens only have to prove negligence to win libel suits. Public figures, it's different. They got to prove the more difficult burden of actual malice, which means the publication knew the information was false, acted with reckless disregard for the truth, and printed it anyway. A few defamation lawsuits have been brought by Lynn Wood since JonBenet's murder against St. Martin's Press. He even sued Time Warner, Fox News Channel, American Media, The Star, as I've just mentioned, The Globe, Court TV, and New York Post. So Lynn Wood doesn't play around. He's a hardball, hard-nosed lawyer who plays very aggressively. And I've got to tell you, if you ever have met or come into contact with a criminal lawyer, they love acting. That when they get on that stage, and it's a stage in a courtroom, these guys put on a show. But you know what? No one is going to put on more of a show than John Mark Carr's lawyers if they get the gig. This Patience Van Zandt and Jamie Harmon. By the way, the first time that they ran into John Mark Carr, they represented him in his child pornography possession charges in Sonoma County in California. I believe they're part of the satanic cult that he belongs to. More on that coming up. So the polygraph tests. The Ramseys. I want to get back to the Ramseys because a lot of people still believe that Patsy is the murderer and there was a cover-up. And I'm going to tell you how it could possibly have happened. In Steve Thomas's words, he actually wrote a book. One of the investigating officers, by the way, who was kicked off the case. When they refused to take the FBI or the Boulder, Colorado, under the auspices of the FBI labs, the Boulder, Colorado Police Department's polygraph test, when they refused it, Lynn Wood said to the Ramseys, hey, you know, you've got to take a test. You're losing the public relations battle by copping out of the polygraph exams. So they changed their minds. And during the next month, from May 6th through the 17th of 2000, they took a series of polygraph exams given by what are now called nationally prominent polygraphers of their choosing. And at a news conference later that month, May of 2000, Lynn Wood, their lawyer, presented the results of the Ramseys polygraph exams and offered to allow the Boulder police and the district attorney's office to interview the polygraphers. The lawyer Wood told the reporters that when the first batch of exams proved inconclusive, they hired different polygraphers to conduct the second round. This time, Wood said they passed, meaning each Ramsey, John, and Patsy in separate exams was found truthful to the basic questions, and each denied having any involvement in the death of their daughter. And Patsy also denied having written the ransom letter. So the first one's inconclusive, meaning Lynn Wood did not like the outcome. So do it again till you get it right, it seems. Just saying. Even Boulder Police Chief Beckner called the whole polygraph episode a part of an ongoing publicity campaign. And isn't that just like Lynn Wood? And what about Colorado Governor Bill Owens? He wasn't buying it either. In March of 2000, he said there's a very good reason, based on the evidence, for the Ramseys to be under the umbrella of suspicion. The public even believed the Ramseys were the real killers. They also believed the Boulder Police Department were never going to bring the Ramseys or anybody else involved in JonBenét's death to trial ever. Public confidence sank even lower when Steve Thomas, a key Boulder City detective in the case, resigned from Boulder Police Department after he was told by the DA's office that the detectives who know this case better than anyone were advised that they would not be called onto the stand by the grand jury in the John and Patsy Ramsey trial. Steve, I don't care how much you know, you're not getting on the stand. They do not want your testimony. Well, you can imagine how Steve Thomas reacted. He said there was a huge split between the Boulder police and the county prosecutor's office. There was a wall. And the uncooperation, John and Patsy Ramsey, to cooperate, worked together with the DA's office to shield the murderer. Thomas wrote in his own book on the case called JONBENÉT, Inside the Ramsey Murder Investigation. I'm going to tell you what he wrote and how he thinks the whole thing went down next on AM 640 Toronto Radio. It's a view from space. I'm the guy that calls space.
Congratulations, Toronto. Once again, you're number one.
Here in Toronto, the average round trip to the office and home again takes 79 minutes, the longest in the country.
If you're wondering what to do with all that time,
you listen to AM 640 Toronto Radio in the car all the time?
Oh, yeah. There's no way I'd make it.
We're with you all the way with chopper traffic on the 9s, morning and afternoon drive when you need it most. AM 640 Toronto Radio. At work, listen online at 640toronto.com.
Frank, you just moved in and you're watching the game already? I thought getting digital TV was complicated.
Nah, it's ExpressView Digital TV from Bell. Yeah, with their new convenient all-in-one packages, programming and equipment are combined in one monthly price.
Great.
Plus installation.
It's Spaceman. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio. Emails at space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. Wayne writes, I just heard you say that John Mark Carr is willing to take the fall for this murder. I would like to know why he would like to take the fall for this crime. Well, just keep listening. This person is totally controlled by a satanic cult. As a matter of fact, I believe they've exalted him as their high satanic priest. And feels that he is going to his heaven and will be reunited with all of the loves of his life, all of the little girls that are in his past. And if you want to understand really why he wants to put himself in this position, it's simply because the life here that he has had has treated him tremendously cruel. And the information about his past life is coming up on the show. And you will understand why. So, one of the detectives, Steve Thomas, Boulder City detective in the case, wrote a book called JONBENÉT, Inside the Ramsey Murder Investigation. In the book, he writes his hypothesis. He says, an approaching 40th birthday, the busy holiday season, an exhausting Christmas day, a couple of glasses of wine, and an argument with JONBENÉT left Patsy Ramsey, the mother, frazzled. Her beautiful daughter, who she frequently dressed almost as a twin, rebelled against wearing the same outfit as her, the mother, to the White's Christmas Day party. Now, I guess quite often Patsy would dress her daughter up in the same exact outfit as the mother. See, the mother was a beauty contestant herself. Actually was Miss Virginia at one point in her career. So I like to kind of go sameys. And JONBENÉT did not want to wear the same outfit, go to the White's Christmas Day party, the party that went to just before JONBENÉT was killed. When they came home from the party at the Whites, John Ramsey helped Burke, the son, who was 9 at the time, put together a Christmas toy. JONBENÉT, who didn't eat much at the White's party, was hungry. Her mother let her have some pineapple. But this is a part where her mother says she does not recall. And then the kids were put to bed. John Ramsey read to JONBENÉT, then went to bed. Patsy stayed up to prepare for the trip to Michigan the next morning. They have a house in Charlevoix, in Michigan. It was like their summer home. And that trip, they were going to leave bright and early in the morning. And Patsy is on record as saying, admittedly, that she did not particularly want to make that trip. Who knows why? It was never stated. Later, JonBenet is awakened after wetting her bed. She was a consistent bedwetter, by the way, in case you didn't know. The housekeeper, Ms. Pug, will tell you that many times she showed up for work, and Patsy always had the sheets off of JonBenet's bed and already in the washer washing when the maid got there. And there was a plastic sheet on her bed. There were the urine stains on her bed. And the pull-up diaper package hanging halfway out of a cabinet, and the balled-up turtleneck, the red balled-up turtleneck found in the bathroom. See, Patsy Ramsey went to the White's Christmas party in a red turtleneck and black slacks. She wanted to dress up JonBenet in the same way. As a matter of fact, when the police came to the door that morning, they had noticed that Patsy was also wearing the red turtleneck and black slacks, so she did not go to bed. She was up all night. Supposedly got home around 10:30. So Steve Thomas concludes that the little girl had worn the red turtleneck to bed, as her mother originally said, and that was stripped off when it got wet. Now, as Steve Thomas told Lou Smith, an investigator hired by the DA's office, I never believed the child was sexually abused for the gratification of the offender, but that the vaginal trauma was some sort of corporal punishment. The dark fibers found in her pubic region could have come from the violent wiping of a wet child. Patsy probably yanked out the diaper package when she was cleaning up JonBenet from wetting the bed. And Patsy, would not be the first mother to lose control in a situation like that, especially if you had a consistent bedwetter. That sometimes throws a parent into a rage after so many times. So when Steve Thomas's hypothesis, there was some sort of explosive encounter with the child in the bathroom sometime before 1 o'clock in the morning. That time suggested by the digestion of the pineapple found in the child's stomach during the autopsy. Steve Thomas believes JonBenet was slammed against a hard surface, like, say, the edge of a tub, inflicting a very heavy head wound, and she was unconscious, but her heart was still beating. And Patsy would not have known that JonBenet was still alive because the child had already appeared to be dead. The massive head trauma would have eventually killed her. It was that critical moment in which she had either call for help or find an alternative explanation for her daughter's death. It was accidental in the sense that the situation had developed without motive or premeditation. She could have called for help, but chose not to. An emergency room doctor probably would have questioned the accident and called the police. Still, little would have happened to Patsy in Boulder. They were a very influential family. But Steve Thomas believes panic overtook her. John and Burke, the boy, 9-year-old, continued to sleep while Patsy moved the body of JonBenet to the basement and hid her in the little wine room. Now, as Steve Thomas pictures the scene, her dilemma was that the police would assume the obvious. If a 6-year-old child was found dead in a private home without any satisfactory explanation, he'd be held to pay. Patsy needed a diversion and planned that. She thought of a kidnapping. And she thought about what kidnapping should look like. According to Patsy's testimony at her trial, she said she discovered that her daughter was missing after finding a 2.5-page ransom note that demanded $118,000 inside the family residence at the bottom of the spiral staircase. And despite specific instructions that the police and friends not be contacted, she telephoned the cops and invited family and friends over. But the note says specifically, do not do that. She did it anyway. The Boulder cops conducted a rapid and superficial search of the house, but did not find any obvious signs of break-in or forced entry. The note suggested that the ransom collection would be monitored and JonBenet would be returned as soon as the money was given. Now, when Officer French was in the Ramsey home questioning them about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, the body wasn't found until 1 in the afternoon. The passing of the deadline that was written in the ransom note of 10 a.m. passed, and John Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey didn't even flinch. As they said, we'd be contacting you by 10 a.m. in the morning. They didn't even think about it. It seems they didn't even care about the passing deadline. They didn't even mention it to the police. But it was in the note. Some more very unusual circumstances. Some very unusual mannerisms by John and Patsy Ramsey. Next on AM 640 Toronto Radio.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640 Toronto Radio. Join the AM 640 Toronto Radio Insider and enter to win the experience of a lifetime. A chance to lace up the blades with Leafs legends like Daryl Sittler, Rick Five, and more. AM 640 Toronto Radio sends you to the 2006 Toronto Maple Leafs Alumni Fantasy Camp, September 20th to 22nd at Tavern Resort, courtesy of Molson Canadian. Practice with the pros. Golf, one of Canada's finest courses. Then watch the Leafs face the Canadians in preseason action. For more info, go to 640toronto.com. The 2006 Toronto Maple Leafs Alumni Fantasy Camp with AM 640 Toronto Radio, the home of the Leafs.
Listen up, Toronto. We're in the home stretch. Now I want you to get out there, dig down deep, and give me 10%. I want 10%. The summer challenge from
Ancient mystery religions, numerology, the Holy Grail decoded, and he goes deeper than a black hole in today's headlines. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
I'm the Spaceman on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Taking your emails at space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. Let me take a call here. Hi, Ron, go ahead.
Hi, Gary, how are you? I'm chomping at the bit. I don't know where to start.
How about the beginning?
I guess
start there.
I guess I'll start with with Steve Thomas and his book.
Sure.
Now, I'm sure you're aware, having read that book, that the Boulder Police Department is a bit of an enigma.
Yes, they are.
In the sense, I'm not sure if they still work this way, but in the sense that in Toronto or any other metropolitan or any other police force for that matter, you have a homicide squad, robbery, sex crimes, what have you. And generally people work there for quite a while and become specialists, if you will. In Boulder, they had an active rotation, so an officer, I believe it was 6 months, would be in one spot for 6 months, and then they'd rotate them to another spot. It was sort of their liberal philosophy on things. and therefore Thomas himself really isn't an expert, given the fact that.
Okay, all right. Let's move beyond just one of the detectives that was close to the case. Let's move to excuse me. Let's move to Owens, the governor.
Well, but before that, I'd also like to mention that John Douglas, who's the I don't know if you're aware of him, he's the gentleman.
What about Douglas? I'm sorry. What about Owens, the governor, who has still not apologized for saying, "Hey, you guys did it"?
Well, do politicians ever really apologize? I mean,
but you're just dodging my questions. You're just slipping me off here. Now, I understand that in the Boulder Police Department, they were adamant that the parents did this.
Definitely.
But when you like, for instance, take Linda Arndt, the detective that was there at the house with she asked the two Ramseys to go and search the house with their friend Fleet White from the party of the night before, because she was asked over.
That's right.
And they actually did the searching. And there were two detectives that actually showed up at the beginning, and one was sent home because they only needed one.
Well, procedurally, it was a mess from the start.
No kidding.
But irrespective of that fact, the belief that the Ramseys had any complicity in this, particularly the mother, I think is ludicrous. Mm-hmm. And just, on the Douglas thing, I mean, the guy started the behavioral science unit with the FBI. He's sort of the chief, I should say. There's nobody better.
Well, pretty high up, and John was very high up.
Yeah, and he's in private, doing that privately now and making an awful lot of money doing so. And he's working with the Ramseys pro bono. Goodness gracious. I had it all together here, and usually I write it down, but I'm in the car.
That was a very complicated case.
It sure is. And the fact remains that, there's no... With regard to the parents, with the mother, there's no evidence of the coroner. When the coroner's report came out, and it was read methodically by a chap by the name of I believe it's Wexler. He's the chief coroner in Pittsburgh, or at least he was. He's a medical doctor, a pathologist. He's also a lawyer, and he went through that word by word, picking apart things that perhaps lay people like you and I might not get. And JonBenet was definitely sexually abused that evening. It wasn't a wipe or anything like that.
No, that's what Steve Thomas intimate.
Okay, and also there was the word was used. She was chronically abused, meaning that meant in legalese that at least 72 hours beforehand she had also been sexually assaulted in some form. But the inference, again, moreover, was that she, a great duration of time, this little girl had suffered under, somebody assaulting her.
Okay, I want to move on because, quite frankly, you interest me, Ron, because you seem to have a grasp, at least what you know of this case. What do you make of John Mark Carr?
Originally, I was just happy the parents were, I had that visceral reaction, the parents are exonerated. But now that I look, he's definitely a pedophile.
And also a person who has been tormented and possibly controlled throughout most of his life, too, through drugs and Satanism. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know if I can see that necessarily, particularly given the fact that that sort of argument or satanic cult thing really was in its heyday in the 80s, and it's sort of been disproven over time.
No, it has not, sir. I bring it up every single Saturday night. It exists, and it exists in a larger, bolder, more manifesting way than ever before.
Well, again, one of the I one of the theories I have regarding him is that he was over in Thailand, I guess it was, and basically, obviously, up to no good. And the police there had an eye on him, and he was definitely going to do some time over there. And he already
were no charges about him doing good over there. There were no charges.
Not yet. But of course.
He left as a. He left as a free man. He just got kicked out of their country because of the charges that were brought by the United States authorities, the FBI.
Well, he was extradited. I don't know if he was charged. You can't charge.
No, he has not been charged.
That's right.
No, that's correct. He was kicked out of the country, sir.
Again, yeah, but that could.
But there were no charges. He did not committed no crime. So they say in Thailand.
Well, I think there is.
But they do a lot of insinuating.
Sure. Well, I think the thing with that is you have to look at it from not necessarily the standpoint of what you or I would do, but legally what is the right thing to do when you have a situation like this. Given that you might not say everything that because you don't want to compromise the case potentially that's coming up.
So look at. Let's cut to the chase.
Okay, sure.
Are you? What are you going to put your money on? Is this man going to be indicted for this? Are they going to charge him at least with it? Let me just go that far. I'm not going to go to the guilty part for you. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I want you to. I want you to answer me this. Do you think that there are going to be charges of murder, kidnapping, and sexual molestation?
Against car?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't believe
so
that
do
they
I.
would go to this
So do I. Or else they would not have brought him home.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Ron, and I respect your opinion, sir.
Well, thanks for the time, I appreciate it.
All right. Tina, Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Go ahead.
Hi, Space?
Yep.
It's real nice to talk to you. You're one of the reasons I listen to your station.
Okay.
I just have a few sort of ideas that have keep coming up in my mind over this. And that is there not a possibility that there is a child porno ring? I mean,
there's many of them.
The beauty contests, there's a very...
What a great cover for them.
Yeah, a very dirty side to all of that.
This attracts all types of pedophiles.
Exactly.
I mean, what better place... where would a wolf go to find chickens? Chicken coop, right?
Dress a 6-year-old up as an adult.
Yeah.
And then say she's bedwetting. Well, that's a sign of sexual abuse, usually. When it's continuous there was always no sign of treatment.
To make her undesirable.
Yeah. I think if anyone who says ludicrous, well, what I think is ludicrous is that they're not looking into the fact that maybe there was continual sexual abuse through the beauty contact, that there are important people, and Carr may have some names, and he's going to take the fall so that those people aren't found out.
He's the wicker man. That's my contention. He is the wicker man. And here's what's going to be so fascinating to me, Tina, to watch this thing, to see how many people are involved in actually allowing him to be the wicker man. Will it be the district attorney? Will it be the defense attorneys? Will it be the judge? Will it be the jury? The whole thing.
It'll be the person who has the most to lose that is the head of this whole operation. And they'll make the choice. And this man's going down because obviously there's got to be a connection between dressing a 6-year-old up as an adult in beauty contests and continual sexual abuse. There's got to be some kind of child porno ring going on here. There has to be. I mean, the stage is set for it.
Yes, it's very logical. Very logical.
That's my opinion.
If I was a pedophile, I would love to be hanging around a beauty pageant for little kids.
Oh, no kidding.
If you're a wolf, or a fox, rather, the chicken coop's the place to hang out.
Yep.
It's that simple. Thank you so
Darn
much.
right. You too, and you have a great night, and you keep on doing your wonderful show. I listen every time you're on.
Thanks so much. AM 640, Toronto Radio. It is A View from Space. Back in one moment. It's the Spaceman. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio. You can email me at space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. Taking your phone calls at 416-870-6400 or star 640 on your cell if you have a thought. something to contribute. So as I was saying to the caller earlier, Ron, in the afternoon of that same day of the murder, Boulder Police Detective Linda Arndt asked Fleet White, a friend of the Ramseys, to take John Ramsey and search the house for anything unusual. John Ramsey and a couple of his friends started their search in the basement first. There, in the wine cellar, John found his daughter's body covered in a white blanket. Now, these guys determined that the lengthy ransom note was written on a pad of paper that belonged to Patsy Ramsey. A Sharpie, a felt pen, similar to the one used to write the note, was found in a container on a Ramsey's kitchen counter, along with other pens of the same type. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, on that same pad of paper, a practice sheet of the ransom note was found, too. No fingerprints could be detected on the note. The text of the note, many odd features, including the fact that $118,000 was demanded. $100,000 in $100 bills, $18,000 in 20s. And as this coincidence, John Ramsey earned a bonus that year of $118,117.50 from his multi-billion-dollar company that he had sold to Lockheed Martin. And the police thought that this ransom price was a suspiciously low amount of money in proportion to John Ramsey's income, because the company that he had just sold turned a profit of like $6 billion. John had a couple of jets. Yeah. And was making a lot of money. He was way up there. And a few handwriting samples were taken from a lot of suspects who might have written the ransom note. And forensic analysis cleared everybody except for Patsy Ramsey, whose writing style bore the same resemblance to the ransom note. Now, with John Mark Carr, they've tried to pick out a couple of letters so far, about as all. But they do have the soon-to-be the Conqueror, the STBC line. It's even stated in the 911 call made by Patsy Ramsey at 5:51 earlier that morning. If you'd like to hear Patsy Ramsey's 911 call exactly the way it was, it's here now for you on AM 640 Toronto Radio.
What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We're kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was it? I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's... Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh, my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out and she's right here. Oh, my God, please. Okay, well, I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath. Please, okay? Hurry. Patsy.
911 call received by Boulder, Colorado Police. 5:51 a.m., December 26th. Patsy Ramsey, the mother, is the voice. And you notice she sounds like she found the body. But she just found the note. She said she went up to see, after she found the note, she went up to see if JonBenet was in her bed and she was gone. Then she called 911. 5:51 in the morning. And the note, after she had read it, clearly told her, call no one. She immediately picked up the phone. When the deadline, the note saying, I'll contact you by 10 a.m., passed, with the police inside with the two parents, and no one batted an eye on the passing of the deadline. And the body wasn't found until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when they finally went down to the basement and found it. It was a 15-room mansion with many corridors, many hidden rooms. So here's some clues by which some interpret the evidence of an intrusion. Two dissimilar footprints in the wine cellar in the room where JonBenet was found by her father that didn't match any of the shoes in the residence. Is that going to come up in the Boulder, Colorado trial of John Mark Carr? Will it be his footprints? The door is open now. By the way, breaking news, it's just been announced that someone from Boulder in the vicinity of 755 15th Street, the address of the house where JonBenet was killed, saw someone like John Mark Carr. So they're slowly eking it out, slowly slipping little facts out that are going to make this guy the Wicker Man, the sacrifice. A third footprint of an unknown person on the outer part of the window of the room by the wine cellar. That's a third footprint of an unknown person on the outer part of the window of the room by the wine cellar. John Ramsey, by the way, said that that window was malfunctioning. It was a broken window. Not smashed glass. It's just the latch was screwed up. A possible footprint on a suitcase placed directly below that same window is up for grabs. John Mark Carr's possibly. A rope that supposedly did not come from the Ramsey house was found on the bed of the guest room near JonBenet's room. Physical marks on JonBenet's body that suggested the use of a stun gun. And a tiny, tiny blood spot on JonBenet's underwear that did not match any known subject. Now, in December of 2003, forensic investigators extracted enough material, they say, from that mixed blood sample found on JonBenet's underwear to establish a DNA profile. The DNA belongs to an unknown Caucasian male. The DNA was submitted to the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, a database containing more than 1 million DNA profiles, mainly from convicted felons, and they have not found a match. They say they check it on a weekly basis. More on the DNA and John Mark Carr and the JonBenet Ramsey murder case in a moment. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio on Space.
Extreme radio for extreme times. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
I'm the guy to call Space. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio and A View from Space. Got an email? Send it to space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. The DNA on John Mark Carr. A public defender for John Mark Carr said just yesterday that any DNA samples taken from his client could not have been legally obtained, and any more testing will need his approval. And this is just the public defender. This isn't even the lawyers that John Mark Carr has picked yet, because he has picked no lawyers. They're coming out of the woodwork to do this case. And some pretty shady characters have come out of this already, too. Especially the pair from California. You heard me mention them already. Patience Van Zandt and Jamie Harmon. Two who insist on working together. Man, it smacks of a witch's cult to me. More on that coming up. A judge has scheduled John Mark Carr's first appearance in Boulder, Colorado court for this Monday, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow. Well, I guess tomorrow. It's after midnight. So tomorrow, Monday, 4:30 in the afternoon. That's a 7. Here we go again. I'm not making this stuff up. Those 7s appear a lot. Sort of the 3s with John Mark Carr. 3 is the number reserved for royalty. So there's something going on there. So it's the Deputy Public Defender, Seth Temin, filed a whole bunch of motions asking the judge to prohibit prosecutors and police from conducting any DNA testing without first notifying the court and the defense. So they obviously want to keep this under wraps. They should be doing it right away. If you really want to get to the truth, or if you really want to put on a show, let's drag it out, like they're doing. See, biological evidence reveals highly private and sensitive information about a person. This Deputy Public Defender, Seth Temin, says. Mr. Carr's right to privacy can only be protected by giving him the opportunity to be heard on this issue prior to collection of a sample. What do you make of that? See, DNA is believed to be a key in solving this thing. Police in '96, December 26th, collected DNA from blood spots in her underwear and from under her fingernails. Some of it was too degraded to use as evidence, but some of it they got enough to submit to the FBI in '03. And the sample, as I've stated earlier, did not match anybody in the house. Which they could be spinning us on, if you know what I mean. And they could be switching DNA, if you know what I mean, to get John Mark Carr as the Wicker Man. Is that going to happen? How big a role will DNA play? I say it's monstrous. It's huge. He was given a mouth swab test in Thailand. And here we go again, just like the airline psyops that's been going on. 7 of them on Friday, delayed or having to disembark or divert the flights. It's a law enforcement official who speaks on condition of anonymity because of the investigation has told the press that Carr was given a mouth swab DNA test when he was in Thailand. And so his public defender right now, who is a man by the name of Seth Temin, said if a DNA sample was taken from Carr, it was not obtained pursuant to applicable law, the constitutions, or by valid consent. And he said Carr would not be providing any other samples without a court order. They haven't charged him yet. Formal charges are still pending against Carr. And don't expect it to, tomorrow, 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday. It's not going to happen there either. There's going to be a bunch more motions. That's all that is. They may not charge him for another week. They also want to seal a sample of Carr's handwriting from public scrutiny. They don't want us seeing that either. Because, you see, some people have suggested that Carr's handwriting in a high school yearbook resembles the writing of the ransom note. But I've already seen that, and they picked out 2 letters only, L's and, I believe, an A, that kind of look similar. That was it. And the rest is nowhere near. So the DNA samples of John Mark Carr have been deemed illegal, the ones taken in Thailand, for now. That came up on Friday at his court appearance in Boulder, Colorado. And no DNA has been taken from Carr since he's been back in the United States of America. So there's your bottom line. And 36 lawyers, count them, 36 lawyers offered to represent John Mark Carr for free in a lot of cases. You know what 36 is? 36 is a double 3. A dozen is 12, right? 1 and 2 equals 3. How many dozen? 3. That's double 3. Again, with John Carr. You know how long the flight was from Los Angeles to Boulder, Colorado? Yeah. 3 hours. They are setting this man up as the wicker man. He is going to be a sacrifice. The sacrificial lamb. Two California attorneys have said they've been retained by Carr to represent him. But another one who was with him at his only court appearance in the case said that Carr wanted a Colorado public defender. So there's more confusion. 2 lawyers in California, the ones I was talking about, Jamie Harmon and Patience Van Zandt, who worked together, only together, said Carr's already asked for. Carr says, well, someone else says Carr's asked for someone else. And it's obvious that John Mark Carr is not going to have the resources to pay for a high-priced attorney, or is he? I mean, seemed to drop the globe, had a company that renovated Victorian houses. Mansions. I mean, that's big cash. Money must have been coming from somewhere. What if they gave him a whole bunch of money to live high and do what he wants and go where he wants, and then he would have to sooner or later pay the price for the gift to be the wicker man for the JONBENÉT story. It's just a hypothesis on A View from Space on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Back with more in just a moment. This is the Spaceman. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio and A View from Space. Just this past Wednesday, I know there's a struggle for John Mark Carr's lawyers. They're all kind of falling all over themselves to grab a hold of it. These two, though, are very, 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 should I say, over-exuberant. California lawyers, Patience Van Zandt and Jamie Harmon, they're the ones that carried his represented him with his child pornography possession case in Sonoma County in California. And Van Zandt and her partner represented Carr 5 years ago on that charge. These two were on Larry King Live on CNN this week, extolling the strength, the stamina, the control, and the intelligence of Carr. I mean, they went on and on. You know what it sounded like? It sounded like two witches from John Mark Carr's coven praising their high satanic priest. Did anybody else see this? It was absolutely shocking. And the man who represented Carr in L.A. on Tuesday to waive his extradition rights was Heda Takasugi. He's a public defender, said that Carr had told her that he planned to have the Boulder, Colorado Public Defender's Office represent him in Colorado, and turned away Van Zandt and Harmon. And a couple of days later, on Thursday, Takasugi again said that now that Van Zandt and Harmon said they have been retained, she must give them professional courtesy and doesn't question what they say. So I wonder who's going to end up representing John Mark Carr. It'll be the public defender one more time, probably, at least, on this next court appearance in Colorado and Boulder, 4:30 on Monday. Back to Van Zandt and Harmon. The head of the Colorado State Public Defender's Office, Dave Kaplan, said that as of early on Thursday afternoon, Van Zandt and Harmon had not contacted his office to say they would be representing Carr in Colorado. So that's still up in the air. And Boulder County Sheriff Joe Pelly pretty much on Thursday said what I've just told you. He expected that the the county public defender's office is going to be representing Carr at his court appearance in Colorado on Monday, because that'll be just a quick meet and greet. That's all that is. Now, Larry Garrison. Ever heard the name? Larry Garrison is a producer hired by John Mark Carr's family to ferret out book and movie deals, and said they want a big-time lawyer for the job, so they're going to try and get Larry Garrison to sell this story and use the money to buy a high-priced lawyer. I'm not falling for that one. Not for a moment. I looked into Larry Garrison's past. And this guy co-authored a book called Aruba, The Tragic Story of Natalie Holloway. Remember the teen who went missing in Aruba and the body still has not been found yet? Well, he's been cashing in on that one. So I would imagine he goes around snooping, looking for this stuff. Maybe, just maybe, Larry Garrison is part of this Van Zandt, Harmon, John Carr, elite rich that run this whole thing. Because remember when John Mark Carr said that he drugged JonBenet, and then that contradicted the evidence of the autopsy that said she was not drugged? And then he came back and said, really, it's all a blur, and he used the word twice, went blur, blur. Well, Larry Garrison said this: to be honest, it's a blur right now on what is going to happen with his book and movie deals. I went deeper into Larry's past and found out some other projects that he was involved in. And one was called Like Mother, Like Son, the strange story of Santi and Kenny Kimes. It was a 2001 television movie. Of all people, it starred Mary Tyler Moore, the most loved actress there is. She stars as Santi Chamber Kimes, a woman who was accurately described during her trial for murder as a sociopath of unremitting violence, the most remorseless degenerate ever to appear in a courtroom. Played by Mary Tyler Moore. Unbelievable, isn't it? It's based on a true story. CBS TV movie detailed the events leading up to the killing of a wealthy, lonely socialite, Irene Silverman, played by Gene Stapleton. A murder orchestrated by the evil incarnate Santi and carried out by her loving son, Kenny. The film is unsparingly depicting this cold-blooded, sexually promiscuous Santi who throughout her life manages to wheel and deal and manipulate other people to do her bidding, no matter how repellent that bidding was, no matter how odious it was. And right now you got to know that it was a real story. Santi and Kenny Kimes are now serving prison terms in a combined total of 246 years in prison. It's called Like Mother, Like Son. A Larry Garrison production. As I said, he's also had the book out, Aruba, The Tragic Story of Natalie Holloway. Was broadcast on May of 2001 on CBS. How is it that the Carr family knows this guy? No, this guy knows the Carr family now. That's how it works. There are so many seedy characters who just seem to be crawling out of the woodwork with this case now, from under rocks, appearing out of the blue, associated with this case. It's not just a murder trial, it's becoming a monster moneymaker with all kinds of satanic cult connections. And how about this woman known as Wendy Hutchins? Wendy, the Good Witch. She's the one that recorded 20 hours of conversations between her and John Mark Carr. 20 hours to total separation from God is the number in numerology meaning of numerology number 2. She had conversations with John Mark through a long period of time. She even has a website. Why? She says to answer all the questions the public might want to know about the tapes. This woman is another one, just like Patience Van Zandt and Jamie Harmon. Unbelievable. I dug and dug and dug to find out how she met John Carr. Can't find it out. All I know was she was a witness in this child pornography possession case in California. Then all of a sudden, Hutchins is hooked up with her. He's hooked up with her, and he's recording all of these hours and hours of conversation. In one sequence, I'll play some after the news in the bottom of the hour here on AM 640 Toronto Radio. I'll play a piece of the tape. In one sequence, John Mark Carr talked about how you would tell a mother or father that you had killed the little girl. She said words to the effect that he would say it was accidental and then said, "I'm sorry, but I'm with your little girl right now, and there is nothing you can do about it." And this really closely resembles the relationship John Carr had with his in-laws when he married his second wife, Laura Knutson, who was 16 years old at the time. He married her and told her parents, that there was nothing that they could do about it. More coming up. And also an excerpt of Wendy Hutchins' tape of John Mark Carr. AM 640, Toronto.
You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman exercising the right to free speech while he still can. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
On Space, it's AM 640, Toronto Radio. 5 years ago, nobody ever heard of John Mark Carr. The man under arrest, but not charged with the murder of JONBENÉT Ramsey, but connected with the case. But Wendy Hutchins says she knew him as no one else. Back in 2001, she says, he told some of his innermost thoughts to her. Conversation with Hutchins depicted a man overtaken by his attraction to young girls. I mean, he said to her, "They're so beautiful, some of them, just overwhelming, dripping with attractiveness." Now, why would we be privy to this incredible expose of John Mark Carr's inner thoughts? Here now is a little excerpt from one of the tapes recorded by Wendy Hutchins and has now been spread round the world so that we can all get a glimpse of her satanic high priest. That's what I believe this is. This is a cult who is doing a number on the world. Listen as Wendy the Witch Hutchins listens to John Mark Carr.
God, that's the most powerful thing. To just be alone with that little girl. The whole thing. She was just so incredible in life and so unreal in death. She just so alive. So alive. She's so alive. She's so alive. I mean, she just was wonderful.
Isn't that incredible? It sounds as though you're listening to two perverts talk about having sex with a 6-year-old. And you know what? I believe that's exactly what was happening. And she's being passed off, this Wendy Hutchins, the listener, the one who said, "Well, I went and told the police that he was talking to me, and they gave me a recording device, so I recorded 20 hours of calls of us talking together." And she was also asked if, "Hey, did you ever think about turning it over to the Boulder, Colorado police?" She said yes, but they weren't interested. What? They weren't what? They weren't interested in that? What's going on? It's another one of those confirm and then detract, take it away. We have the answer now, we don't have any more. Change their minds. It's confusion. He also was quoted as saying in one of the other bit pieces of the 20 hours that she has, "I can see through the eyes of the person who stopped the life of JonBenet as easily as if I did it myself," he says. Hutchins says she met Carr through their mutual fascination with Richard Allen Davis. He's the guy convicted of the 1993 murder of the 12-year-old Polly Klaas in Petaluma, California. She says that when they began exchanging letters and telephone calls, Carr quickly opened up to her in ways she found deeply disturbing. Hutchins says she then went to the local law enforcement officials with her concerns, and they instructed her to tape the calls, and they gave her the equipment to do it. There were things that he wanted to share that he had never been able to share with anybody, she says. Those things included thoughts about JonBenet, a graphic description of his desire for young girls, and so on. He told her once, "I've kissed little girls on the mouth, and they've actually, most of the time, initiated the kiss. But I've kissed little girls on the mouth. I've never French kissed a little girl in my life, but I've been kissed by them. I've held them. I've caressed them." And you're telling me the Boulder, Colorado police aren't interested? While he doesn't confess to actually murdering or sexually assaulting JonBenet on the tapes, he does make eerie remarks about the case of JonBenet's death. He says about the Ramseys' home in Boulder, Colorado, 755 15th Street, "The house is absolutely just dripping with her sweet little tortured spirit." What a tortured spirit. He says, "I may not, or I may have, been to her grave. I may or may not have been to her house. Maybe the person that did it thinks it's important that someone confesses, and he's chosen that other person to do that in his place. How would that person apologize for such an atrocity? Would that person say, 'You know, I strangled your daughter, and it was so accidental, and I was so afraid, and I was so absolutely afraid'?" These are all the things that he said to Wendy the Witch Hutchins. Now, the one thing that Hutchins has in common with John Mark Carr is this guy that's sitting on death row in California for Polly Klaas's murder. Davis. This is like the unholy trinity here. Davis, Hutchins, and John Mark Carr. He also said, by the way, that he had sex with JonBenet before her death. But that doesn't match JonBenet's autopsy report. There was no penetration, John Mark Carr said. He said he was pure. So I believe he thinks he's the ultimate sacrifice in that he has never had sex with the ones that he loves so much. That's why I believe the stories have come out that he drugged his second wife, Lara, and she would go to sleep for like 2 days while he played with her body. But never penetrating. He thinks he is a pure wicker man. The perfect sacrifice. And there are people involved in this case that are more than willing to accept that. That's the scary part. Back with more in a moment. It's AM 640, Toronto Radio. Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio, on a view from space. going through some of the information of Wendy Hutchins, one of those people who has just crawled out of the woodwork from somewhere. I mean, she happens to be the best friend of Polly Klaas's killer. That's how these two obviously must have met. However, they have said that John Mark Carr had no connection with Davis, the killer of Polly Klaas, because he was also infatuated with that case. What I'm wondering is how these people actually got hooked up then. If they're denying the fact that John Mark Carr had any conversations or any connection with Polly Klaas's killer, Davis, on death row, and if he did, then that's how he got a hold of Wendy Hutchins, because Wendy Hutchins is Davis's biggest fan. I mean, these three are the axis of evil. There's some other very alarming things said by John Carr to Wendy Hutchins. I'm innocent. The most pristine person ever. I've never had sex with a little girl. He also has another very almost telling, almost cryptically telling response to Wendy Hutchins, thanking him for talking to her. And he says, and these are his words, "I just hope it doesn't backfire on me and come back to haunt me." Talking about his conversations with Wendy. And will they be used in a court of law against him? It could happen. But physical evidence, like the DNA, is going to be a whole lot bigger than some audio that they play for the jury. So Wendy the Witch Hutchins says she's feeling vindicated after John Mark Carr was arrested. And when Hutchins was asked why this information in 2001 wasn't passed on to Boulder, Colorado, police said, or she said police contacted her but showed no interest. They showed no interest. If this is really John Mark Carr on the tapes, why not? It was just the biggest, highest profile murder case in the country. No, make that the world. And there's one other guy that's surfacing in this story that's just absolutely incredible. You've heard about this guy? You've seen him yet? Dr. Keith Ablow. Another one that's crawled out from a rock somewhere. A forensic psychiatrist who interviewed the first wife, the 13-year-old, and her parents for telepictures. It's going to be showing the week of September 11th. That's right. They're tying in September 11th with this also. Dr. Keith Ablow, his show is just about grilling the first wife of John Mark Carr. She was 13, he was 16. She was 13 years old, and he was 20 when they married. Abloh says these people are just honest people with nothing to gain through all of this. Are you kidding me? You know how much Abloh probably paid these people to come on his TV show? I'm talking big bucks here. So, if you want to Google Dr. Keith Abloh, that's A-B-L-O-W, you'll see this guy and what he's into. I mean, all these crazy people coming out of the woodwork. And there's one other thing. People have talked about the father of John Carr, Wexford. But nobody's talked about the mother. Evidently, the mother of John Mark Carr, his mother tried to kill him when he was a very young boy. This guy, George McCrary, another one of those guys, crawled out of the woodwork somewhere, who says he's known Wexford Carr, the father of John, for over 40 years. Said John's mother, Patricia Elaine Adcock, made a circle of kindling with wood and put the little baby in the middle of it one day and was just about to try and light it. But John's older brother, Michael, came running in just before she got the flame to the flammable material. So, Patricia Adcock was a little bit strange herself. Was committed to a mental institution. Her marriage broke up with Wexford, the father. She died in 2000. And McRae says, the longtime friend of Wexford, the father of John, says that really had a lasting effect on John Carr when she died. From the time he says his mother tried to kill him, he's been out and out paranoid that someone's going to try and kill him or take advantage of him. McCurry said he needs a psychiatrist worse than anyone I've ever met in my life. That's the mother, Patricia Elaine Adcock. And I told you that Mary Tyler Moore flick with Larry Garrison, the producer, Carr's families hired him to find a book or a movie deal. Well, it seems that this strange story of Sante and Kenny Kimes is sort of like John Mark Carr and his mother. Where one is getting, the other is passing on their childhood abuse and exploitation. Because that's what Sante Kimes did. She had an awful childhood of abuse, was exploited, and passed it on to her son Kenny. It's exactly the same as Carr's story with his mother. As I've said already, she built a little funeral pyre, a little sacrificial fire to burn him as a small child. She also tried to bring him up as a female, which is pretty strange. Hence his affection for little girls and his desire to hang around little girls all the time. But this is indeed one of the craziest, strangest cases ever to be played out. I don't know what you feel about it, but I'll repeat it again. I think that there are some people that are using this man as the fall guy. He will be the Wicker Man, which is a pagan sacrificial person for the real thing. See, in the ancient days of pagan worship, the king was sacrificed if the land had a drought, or if the crops didn't come in, or some other catastrophe happened to the land. The king was killed. Then the king got smart and said, well, you know what? My family's not dying. Someone else is going to die in our place. Hence, the wicker man. Someone to die in the king's place. The one who is deemed responsible for the nation or the country would be the king. But the king would delegate the responsibility of being sacrificed to the wicker man. Which is why I brought up the plot of the wicker man. Which coincidentally, yes, coincidentally only, use the C word, I'll have to accept it here, is being re-released this September the 1st. Just a few days from now. The new rendition of The Wicker Man. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio. It's been a view from space. Coast to Coast is next time. Space, I'm out.